So as I was saying, so you a lot of the times, if you develop a relationship with the farmers at the markets, you can start requesting, and the farmers will um, start planting crops that you are interested in buying from them if they get enough requests. So they it's a real opportunity for shoppers to develop and see where their food comes from. Now, just what happened? There we go. So the other features of the farmers market is the manager usually goes out to the farms um, to inspect the farms. The farmers that come to the market, they are usually small family farmers. A lot of them have been farmed in the same family for several generations. This is Lanny Orchards, and they've been since the early 1960s. So this is about 4 generations of farmers, and they have all kinds of orchards. Um, Lanny has a little over 100 acres on their farm. Uh, this is the Hmong farmers. They immigrated from Southeast Asia. They only have about an acre, and they grow the best Asian vegetables. Um, and they are part of a collective called Flats Mentor Farm that the owner of that collective uh, hands out an acre per family of farm for people who immigrated from Southeast Asia and Africa. Um, and they have been farmers in their old countries, but it's very tough to get land to farm. And they are able to raise crops that they have grown back in their old countries. And they are taught business skills, and which includes uh, developing relationships with farmers markets, and coming to the farmers markets and selling their produce. So Song, who is on the left, she is the owner of this 1 acre, and she and her family get up about 3 o'clock in the morning, Saturday morning of the market day, with headlamps to pick their produce to bring to market and wash them and clean them. And it is incredible because it's so fresh and delicious. And this is Elizabeth of Copycut Farm. Her family's been in farming for 4 generations. She's 4th generation, but she didn't get into farming until about 10 years ago. Her father just retired from our farm. He's been selling produce and corn and credible tomatoes. But she and her husband decided to get into chicken and pig farming. So this is their free range chickens, and they're incredibly very plump chickens, incredible fresh eggs. And so our farmers markets don't just sell fresh fruits and vegetables and meat products and fish. They also sell a lot of prepared foods. Um, Prepared foods from different parts of the world. This is Sebastian, who has Argentinian uh, Argentinian versions of empanadas. Before the pandemic, he was able to prepare them at the market. We have prepared foods from all different parts of the world. We also have crafts people. They don't come as often because we focus mostly on um, food products, but we support a lot of the um, crafts made by the people who sell them. Uh, so there is a lot of Etsy type craftspeople at the market. And we also support our local musicians. We were talking just before we came on about Porch Fest and how we have local musicians performing all over town on the same day. And we also have musicians, we have two different musician groups performing per market day throughout the season. So we support a lot of local musicians. And it's a site for people to gather, to uh, get to hang out with uh, friends and family and run into people. And of course, this was all pre-pandemic. And so a huge part of our farmers market is the community aspect of it. Um, to be able to run into friends serendipitously, or to have a space for your organization to promote whatever your nonprofit is working on. It is a place where all sorts of things can happen at the market. And this is coming up to my last slide. Um, so we were given the towns from a lot of your learners were coming from. I put together a list of the towns and their farmers markets, the days that they have their markets, and also the benefits that their market provides for those who receive SNAP benefits. And a lot of the markets have uh, matching benefits for SNAP customers. Um, and this is something that that you can send out to your learners afterwards. So that's my presentation.
Should I just go ahead, Julia?
Yeah, go ahead. Thank you, Fred. We'll do questions after both of you present.
Okay. I'm going to share my screen now. I just want to thank everybody again for having us, and Fred for helping. And these are similar pictures to what you saw before, but as you can see, there's so much to choose from.
1 second, Missy, we aren't seeing your screen.
Oh. Let's see. Sorry.
That's okay.
Let me share screen. It says all participants can share.
All right, we're seeing it now.
Okay, great. Okay. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay. So we have similar vendors, produce vendors, and we have conventional fruit and vegetable. We have an organic farmer that comes with their stuff. And all of ours are from Massachusetts. We have meat vendors. And in this picture, we have the fresh fish that comes, literally off the boats before she drives up on Saturdays from Gloucester. The people in the middle also have the Southeast Asian vegetables, and they have a very small farm, and they sell out every week. They are so popular. In the picture next to that, in that beautiful colored stew, a woman from Africa has taken her family recipes and bottled it in a peanut sauce. That's very popular. And each farmer's market usually has either an info tent or a manager's tent where you can get information and tokens. I'll talk about that in a few minutes. And that's just the people that are on our committee. And our market, we're in the 32nd season. So we've been there a long time. And some of our members have been there the whole time. So that's pretty impressive. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the SNAP, which is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Fred touched on that in his slides where he talked about the matching system at different markets. So when you sign up with the SNAP people, you get a card that you bring to the market, and that card is used to get funds to spend at the market. And most markets do this match program that we talk about, where if someone comes to the manager's tent and says, please give me $20 from my SNAP funds, we give them tokens, but we have fundraised to give them an additional $10 a week. So they walk away with $30 instead of $20. And as you saw from Fred's list, different towns have different amounts. Waltham is actually one of the lower ones. And Belmont, for instance, gives out $25 each week to its SNAP customers. So it's really quite an amazing benefit. And the other part of SNAP, these are what you can buy with your SNAP tokens and what you cannot buy. And of course, people can look at this list after, but that just gives you an idea. And this is an example of what the token system is that we use at the Waltham market. Some markets call them market bucks. They have different names for them. And it lasts for the whole season. Our tokens don't expire. So if you don't spend them 1 week, you can spend them the next. You can spend them the year after if you lose them. And then all of a sudden you find them, you can still use them. And then the other benefit of having an EBT card is you're automatically enrolled in the HIP program, which is unique to Massachusetts. It's the Healthy Incentive Program. And in essence, it's free money on top of the SNAP allowance. And just like SNAP is based on the household income, the amount that you get for HIP is based on that same number. So anyone who has an EBT card is getting at least $40 free a month of additional money to use towards fruit and vegetables. So it helps people stretch their budgets. Unfortunately, through no fault of their own, a lot of EBT cardholders don't realize they have this HIP benefit as well. So at our market, when someone is getting their SNAP tokens, we always ask if they're aware of the HIP benefit. And if they're not, we explain it to them. It's a sort of lengthy process. It's hard to explain, but people, quote unquote, earn their extra money. It's automatically in their account, but there's money there that as soon as they spend $20 of their HIP money, it goes right back into their SNAP account. So with each purchase that they use at a HIP vendor, they get a receipt which shows them how much money is left in their SNAP account and how much is left in their HIP account. So people should always know where they stand. And HIP funds go into their accounts on the first day of every month. SNAP money is different. It depends on where your Social Security number falls. So if people don't get their SNAP funds till the 15th of the month, at least they have the 40, 60, or 80 on the first of the month they can use until they receive that SNAP check, the SNAP amount. I won't let me move forward. Let's see. Okay, so the quick things that they need to know about HIP is there has to be a balance in their SNAP account in order to get the HIP money. But even if you have $1 in your SNAP account, you can still take full advantage of the HIP money, and the vendor will help you through the process of gaining all of that. So in our market, the vendors themselves who are HIP certified process the purchases. Some markets, that is done at the manager's tent. If you don't use all your HIP money, then you lose it. It doesn't roll over until the next month. And when the slides are distributed, you'll see these resources if you have questions about anything related to this. And this is a great list that Fred put together of the Department of Transitional Assistance locations, where if anybody has questions or needs information, these are the addresses or phone numbers that you'll be able to call to get the help you need. So that's the end of mine.
Awesome. Thank you, Missy and Fred. That was very helpful. So now we'll do live question and answer. Does anyone have any questions for Fred or Missy?
I just have a comment that your photographs were stunning. The colors of all the different vegetables, it was just a feast for the eyes. and a nice community event as well.
It really is.
I have a question on something that Fred mentioned in his presentation. How do the farmers apply to join a farmer's market? Because you said that the manager will go and visit farms. So is there an application process?
Yeah, so it's very competitive. It's competitive for the market managers because there are more and more farmers markets, and the number of farms pretty much stays the same. And so it like this past year, one of our farmers retired. And this and like Missy's market, they've been there for 32 years. They've developed all these relationships and they keep coming back year after year. And we've had that too. And to get a new farmer with the same volume and types of crop, the diverse, it's really hard to find a farmer who hasn't already committed to other markets. But if you happen to find one, there have been instances where there have been farmers who claim people who claim they're farmers and go to the Chelsea produce market and pick up boxes of tomatoes and things. And so you really have to go to the farm and to see what they grow, how much they grow, and ask them how many markets they go to, where else do they sell to, Market Basket, or so you get an idea of what they grow is sort of equal to what they're selling. And if all of that works out, then and they are free on the day of your market, then it's like, yes, come on down. And so yeah, and then they have to go through all the hoops that the town requires, like insurance and things like that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Or
Uh,
Fred,
uh,
were you gonna say something?
Well, as an addendum to what Maureen asked, is that we go on these farm inspections, but we can invite any of our customers who would be interested in going to visit a farm. And we've done that a couple of times. So it's sort of like a farm tour. So just to educate our customers even a little more than talking to the farmers at their tent. So to get especially the chicken and pork farmer, to see how they're raised, to see that, yes, this is definitely free range.
I have a question myself for you, Missy. You mentioned that when you bring your EBT card to the info tent, you get tokens to use. Do the same rules apply to the tokens as your card, that it can only be certain items, like at the grocery store?
Yes. The token has the markings on it that it's a SNAP token, because we also give out tokens for people that didn't bring cash, and there might be a couple vendors that don't take charge cards. So we give them a different color token. So all the vendors will know that it's SNAP money, and therefore they can only sell them certain products. But our vendors are very helpful, those with the HIP, since they understand how the program works. They go out of their way to help those customers for instance, if a customer only had $1 left in their SNAP fund, but they hadn't used their $40 HIP money, they will run that card 40 times so that person can buy their food that day. And they
Wow.
train their staff too. So it's really quite a process.
That's great. Thank you.
I have a question. Do the same vendors come every week to the farmer's market, or do some of them only come sometimes? Does it rotate?
In our case, excuse me, we have produce vendors every week, the same ones every week. But we have coffee vendors too that alternate. And some weeks we have meat, some weeks we have wine. So it's easier for us to organize the market by setting aside weekly vendors, guest vendors who might only come 4 times a market or every other week. So there's different rotations, but fruit and vegetable will always be there.
It's really interesting. Different towns have different responses to vendors. There are some vendors that are favorite in one town, in the next town over, they just can't sell anything. And so the vendors themselves may want to, they sort of figure that out. So they may start out wanting to be at your market all the time, but they realize that their sales aren't as good. So then they'll come maybe every other week or once a month. So they figure that out. It all depends on the customer response to each of their products.
Thank you.
Is there a place where you can go and you can find out where all the farmers markets are, like in the area?
There are several. The Mass Department of Agriculture Resources has a list of farmers market on their website. And then there is also a statewide farmers market federation. It's called Mass Farmers Market what is it? Missy, what? Mass Farmers Markets.
Yeah, MFM.
Yes. Yeah. So they run the farmers market in Copley Square and Central Square and Davis Square, as well as other resources to all the farmers markets in the state.
And when you go to their website and it says something about how to find a market, they have filters where if you want to see what markets there are on Tuesday, you can do it by day of the week. And so you can really hone in on what you want to know.
The other phenomenon the last few years is an increase of winter farmers markets. A lot of that has to do with greenhouses and indoor growing conditions and longer growing seasons in the fall, and just the popularity of farmers markets. So there are more and more of the winter farmers markets going on too, and those markets are also on the Mass Farmers Market site.
So what's the season for the winter market and what's the season for the spring and summer market? Like what months do they run usually?
My guess is that the winter markets are February or March, and they go until April, and then the other local ones start. We don't open till June, but as Fred said, I think someone opens in May. So, everybody, not everyone's different, but you really need to look at their websites to see when they're opening.
That's the thing about the farmer's market business especially here in Massachusetts, each town is different and each market is different because of the way the towns are set up. It just the administration of the farmers market, some are individually run, some are run by nonprofits, some are run by the town, and they all have different rules and they all have other conditions on when people who are running the market are able to do that. And then it also depends on the vendors and what their schedules are. So you really have to check on each town's market.
And for instance, our market, we allow people to bring dogs on leashes. Some markets won't allow that. We do.
Yeah, we do too. And there are, as I was showing some on my slides, there are so many other activities, especially before the pandemic. We've had kids tables and, we had different daycare centers sponsor a day at the kids table and kids activities. So the kids could do things while their parents are shopping and things like that.
Awesome. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you both very much for the presentation. I
Thank you
think
for
we
having
all
us.
learned a lot.
Yes, thanks for having us and thanks, Missy.
With an experiment.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for taking us up on it, really. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.